In this recording, I'm going to show you how Openshift Actions extension works. To make this demo, I created a new repo which contains the workflow files, the actions code, and the application we're going to deploy to our Openshift cluster. I had to create this repo because the action has not been published to the marketplace yet, so we just need to tell GitHub to execute the code defined here. So in the actions folder you will find all the code. Inside the GitHub workflow you will find the YAML pipeline, and all the other folder are the application we're going to push to our Openshift cluster. The first thing I want to show is the YAML file, which define all the steps that are going to be executed in the workflow. So in this file you have to tell GitHub which is the event that triggers the workflow. If you want to use GitHub runner, so in this case we're telling GitHub to create a virtual machine with Ubuntu, or if you want, you can also use a self-hosted runner and run it on your machine. And then these are the steps that have to be executed. First is the actions checkout, which copy the content of your repo, and then our Openshift actions. In this case, as you can see, I can't use this format because our extension is not in the marketplace. I just have to tell GitHub you will find all the information inside the actions folder. So if we go back in our repo and we go to the actions folder, we find that we have an action YAML file which contains all the information of our action, so all the inputs that are needed to it to run. In this case we need the version of OC, the Openshift server URL, the parameters to authenticate to our Openshift cluster, and then the command we want to execute. And we're also telling GitHub that the entry point for this action is inside the lib folder and is the ocexec file. And if we go back in the actions in the lib, we find the ocexec.js. So at this point we also need to pass all the input values we want to GitHub. So in this case we're going to use the latest version of OC, and then we need to provide a URL for our Openshift server. For sensitive data, GitHub gives us access to the secrets. To create one, we have to go to the settings, then secrets. Here we can create whatever we want. As you can see, I already created my API token and Openshift server URL. So if we go back in the parameters, we have to define all the attributes, all the flags that are necessary to authenticate to our Openshift cluster. We can use the API token or username and password, and there is also the accept and trusted certificate, which uses the insecure skip TLS verify flag to bypass server certificate checks. Or if you want to use a certificate authority file, you can also use that flag and define the path of your certificate authority file. At this point we just need to define which OC command we want to execute. In this case we're going to print the version of OC we're using, because we declare that we want to use the latest OC version. Then we start a new build. We already have our application running on our Openshift cluster. This is it. And then we want to check the status. So Now that we have everything, we can start by editing our index.html, push the new change, and see that the workflow will be triggered and a new trigger new okay, we committed. So if we go to actions, that a new workflow start, new build, and eventually the new version of our application will be pushed to our Openshift cluster. Here, as you can see, the OC version command has been executed, and so now we're using the version 4.4. The build is now complete, and now we can see our new version on our Openshift cluster. So this is what you can do with Openshift action. Now you can authenticate and execute OC command directly from GitHub and be able to deploy your application directly from here.